Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. I promise you we're going to have a very valuable 2 hours together. I have spoken to the senior executives of more than 1,000 large companies, some of the biggest companies in the world, and I've spoken to more than 10,000 small and medium-sized companies. And sometimes I ask this question, I say, how many people here work on commission? And people shake their heads, and maybe 10 or 15% of people will raise their hands and say that I work on commission, sales. And I said, what is the truth? What is the truth about commission? And the fact is that everyone works on commission. Everyone is paid a percentage of the results that they get. And so we all want to earn more money. We all want to be more successful. We all want to have a bigger home and a better car and a nicer life. And the way that we do that is we get better results. Now, I have written 19 books on leadership. Over the last 3 years, I wrote 14 books on leadership, which are published by the biggest publishers in the United States and that are published all over the world. And people say, what is leadership? Well, when I was a boy, I used to study military leadership. I used to study generals who would lead armies, and I would study great battles and things like that. But I don't think leadership is winning great battles. Leadership is the ability to get results. In fact, leadership is the willingness to accept responsibility to get results. So if you want to improve the quality of your life, you have to get more and better results. And if you want to earn more money, you have to get more and better results. And many people don't understand that. They think that leadership or results, your income, is determined by your boss and by your company and by the universe. But no, every single person actually determines their own income. Each person determines the size of the house they live in, the size of the car they drive. They determine the quality of their life for themselves and their family. Everything is determined by your ability to get more and better results. So when I do a seminar on leadership, which can be 1 hour or 1 day or 5 days, or I can write books on the subject of leadership, it all comes back to your willingness and ability to accept responsibility for results. So the first question you ask is, what results are expected of me? And of all the results that are expected of you, what are the most important results that people will pay the most for? I've always been a fan of South Korea. South Korea, after World War II and after the Korean Wars, was very poor. And they changed the economic system. And over the next 20, 25 years, South Korea grew 50 times. 50 times. The fastest single rate of growth of any country in the history of the world. And South Korea went from being an impoverished, struggling country to being one of the most successful countries in the world. My great love is economics. So I study economics, both economics in my own country, but economics worldwide, is what are the factors that lead to prosperity, both for an individual, both for a company, and especially for a country. And I have read and studied perhaps 150,000 hours on the subject of success. And so we all want to be more successful. We all want to earn more money. How many people here would like to double their income? All right, does somebody not understand the question? Yes, we want to double our income and triple our income. And I began studying time management many years ago, and I find that there are several different ways for you to double your income. I have developed at least 7 different ways to double your income. And all of them work quickly, and all of them work predictably. Not easily, mind you, but they work predictably. And so I will give you a couple of ideas today about how to double your income. One of the simplest methods of all is to double your results. is to get twice as many results as you're getting today. And so it's a very simple formula for that. And a friend of mine actually was hired by a company, and they asked him to increase the size of the company 5 times in 10 years. He actually increased the size of the company 106 times in 6 years. Unbelievable. In the U.S., we have a magazine, and the magazine gives the stories of the 500 fastest growing companies in the U.S. 500 fastest growing companies. And each year, it takes these 500 companies that have grown the fastest in the last 3 years. And last year, the fastest growing company grew 1,800 times. The year before that, the fastest growing company grew 1,560 times. The average company in the 500 grew 17 times. That's the average, 17 times. And that is amazing. Can you imagine a company increasing its sales 17 times? Imagine your company growing 17 times. So at the end of 1 year or 3 years, you have 17 times more people, 17 times more offices, 17 times more sales, 17 times bigger. And this is the average, but some companies grow 100 times, 200 times, 500 times, 1,000 times in 3 years. And you go, that's amazing that a company can grow that far. And so how do they do it? And I have studied this over and over again, and I find that success is predictable. There are certain things that you can do that actually predict success. So my friend received the job of doubling the size of the company in 5 years. And what he did is he just had a very simple system. He said, what are our sales today? And he wrote them down. He said, and how many sales are we making each day? And how many products are we selling each day? And how many trucks are we driving each day? So he worked it out, and then he moved forward 5 years, and he said, all right, to double our sales, we will have to make twice as many sales. We'll have to make twice as many deliveries. And this was a delivery company, so we'll have to have twice as many trucks, and so on. And so we worked back from 5 years to today, and he began to think that in 4 years we'll have to grow this big, in 3 years we'll have to grow this big, 2 years, 1 year. And the company grew 106 times in 6 years. Unbelievable. And what he did was he said simply this. He said that what we have to do is work back from our goal. In this case, it was to double. And then we have to hire the correct number of people. We have to train them with the correct sales skills. And by the way, in business, the most important skill is sales. It's interesting if I could tell you a great story. In 1991, IBM had been the most successful company in the world for maybe 50 years. They ranked number 1 in every category: sales, innovation, profitability, growth rates. Most amazing. And then the company, just like one of those rockets, fell out of the air and crashed, dropped 80%. And so they hired one of the biggest management consulting firms in the U.S., maybe in the world, and they brought them in and they said, why is IBM collapsing? And they said, well, we will study it and come back to you with a solution. And what they said was, after 6 months, and they charged them more than $3 million, after 6 months they came back and said, we have found your problem. And the top executives from IBM said, oh, that's good. What is it? And they said, low sales. And they said, well, that's great. What is the solution? And they said, high sales. And what we have found is that the secret to business success is high sales. The reason for business problems or failure is low sales. And everything else is commentary. So this company is very famous. This company has been working since 1928. And if you go to this management consulting company, you say, here's my problem. And they will say, well, give us all the details. All right? And what we will do is we will decide whether or not we will accept your work, your assignment. And if we do, we will charge you millions of dollars, and we will also bring you a solution. So they said, well, that's wonderful. We know that low sales are the problem. What's the solution? High sales. And so they said, well, how do we get high sales? IBM had 82% of the world computer market. 82%. It was unbelievable. They controlled more computers than all the other companies put together, multiplied times 4. Not any longer, mind you, but at that time. And so they said, what is the solution? And they called it the 75% rule. They said, up until recently, the company was giving the salespeople so much paperwork and the sales managers so much paperwork that they didn't have time to make sales. So we're going to change the numbers, and we're going to require that 75% of the time of salespeople will be out talking to customers and making sales. And 75% of the sales managers will be out working with the salespeople to make sales. Within 1 year, IBM went from a loss of $1.1 billion to a profit of $1.6 billion. It was an incredible turnaround. And the reason I tell you that is because many companies that I have worked with over the years have told me that their strategy is the IBM rule, 75%. So the reason we say that is that results in business are everything, and the most important results are sales. And the most important results for sales are to call on customers and talk to customers and persuade customers to buy your product. And everything else is secondary. So if you want to grow your company, you have to get more and better results. And what are the most important results? The most important results are sales. You've got to get more sales. I do a program called the 2-Day MBA. And it's 2 solid days from 8 in the morning till 5:30 at night, where I take you through the equivalent of 2,000 hours of MBA courses. And I show you how to transform your company, to raise your sales and profits by 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 times, and very quickly. And the whole focus is always on sales, is talk to more customers. So the man who had increased the sales of his company so much, what he did is he started to spend twice as much time talking to customers, twice as many phone calls, twice as many personal contacts, twice as many trucks, twice as many advertisements, twice as many ads on the internet. Everything was twice as much. So you all want to double your income. And here's a very simple system. If you want to double your income, then simply double the activities that will double your income. Just simply do twice as many of them. So here's a very simple way to double your income, and that is to improve your productivity by 25% per year. Now, this was his idea. If we increase our productivity by 25% per year, because of the miracle of compound interest, we will double our sales in 2 years and 7 months. And if we do it again, we will double our sales again in 2 years and 7 months. We will double our results. Everything is results. Okay? So focus on the results. And what he did was he found that if you increase your sales 25% per year and it compounds, in 10 years you increase your sales and your income 10 times. So when we look at the companies that grew 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, these companies just focused all day long on increasing the number of sales. Now, if you increase your sales or your results by 25% a year, you'll double your sales. So how do you increase your sales by 25% a year? Well, you increase them by 2% per month. How do you increase your sales and your results by 2% per month? You increase them by 2% I'm sorry, 2% per month, is what you do is you get 2% better each month, 25% better each year, and twice as productive in 2.3 years. It's not complicated, and everybody who does it doubles their sales, doubles their results, doubles their profitability. So the first thing that we do when we work with a company or an individual, we say, what are the most important results you get? Sales. And how do you get sales? What are the specific steps that you need to take? And I learned a very interesting thing about business success, is that 90% of business success is determined by the quality of your product or service. Now, this is a very simple observation. 90% of business success is determined by the quality of your product or service. However, 90% of personal success, the amount of money that you earn, is determined by the quality of your work personally. So if you want to increase the size of your income and you want to increase the size of your results, what you do is you just get better and better at your key tasks. So we go around and we look at these companies that grew so fast. They were asked, if you were given a lot of money to grow your business, how would you spend that money? And 95% of the company owners said we would spend the money by investing it and in increasing the quality of our company. Increasing the quality of our company. If we increase the quality of our company and our work, we would double our sales, double our profits. Now, is this easy? No, it's very difficult, but it's possible. So I want to start off by giving you sort of a little outline of business success. And by the way, we all earn our living by succeeding. We all earn our living by getting results and getting better and better results. When I started off, I came from a family with no money. And I worked as a laborer. I worked washing dishes, and I worked washing cars, and I worked washing floors. I thought I was going to wash things for the rest of my life. And sometimes I joke, and I say, my wife is always giving me things to wash because she doesn't want me to lose my skill. So I'm a good washer. And so the focus on results is what changed my life, and I stumbled into the importance of continuous learning, which is learning how to do your job better and better and better. Now, they have done some very wonderful studies on personal and business success, and what they found is that if you take the population, 80% of the population improves their performance up until the first year of their work. And after that, they never improve. 10 years after the average person starts their job, like an airplane, they level off, and they never improve. They never get any better. But the top 20% of people are different. The top 20% of people invest in learning more and more all their lives. So they're constantly improving the quality of their work. They're constantly getting better and better. So we say that the quality of your product or service determines your success in business. The quality of your work determines your success as an individual. And if you keep on improving the quality, your income goes up and up and up. And as Albert Einstein said, compounding is the greatest power in the universe. So you could increase your income by 25% per year, double in 2 years and 7 months, triple again, and in 10 years you could be earning 10 times as much. When I started off as a poor person, I sat down and I worked out this compounding, and I concluded that if I just got improved 25% per year, then I could increase my incomes 10 times in 10 years. And I began to teach a very simple system to increase your income 10 times in 10 years. And everybody all over the world who used this simple system increased their income 10 times or 15 times or 20 times. I was giving a seminar, and I was the main speaker, but there were several smaller speakers. And one of the speakers is very rich and very successful. And he got up and he spoke, and he was in his 30s. And I had already spoken about this subject of continuous improvement. And he got up and he said, that man, Bryan-Tracy, changed my life. He said, when I first heard him speak, I was 18 years old. And he said, if you continue to invest in yourself, you will increase your income by 10 and 20 times the amount that you invest in yourself. He said, and he pointed to me, he said, he was wrong. He said, my income increased 50 and 100 times the amount that I invested. I invested hundreds or thousands of dollars. The return, like an investment, was 50 and 100 times. He said, by the time I was 23, I was a millionaire for the first time. And this is not a won millionaire. This is a dollar millionaire. And he said, by the time I was 36 last year, I had more money than I could ever spend for the rest of my life. And it all came from working to improve my skills, to get better and better, to get more and better results. Now, this is not a miracle. This is proven true all over the world for everyone. So when I sat down with this system, I set a goal to increase my income 2% per month, 25% per year, 10 times in 10 years. And I actually increased my income 10 times in 5 years. I was amazed. I couldn't believe it. I had been poor all my life, and in 5 years, I increased my income 10 times. So I kept doing it. And in 5 more years, I increased my income 10 more times. And if you look at the numbers, 10 times 10 equals what? It equals 100. I increased my income 100 times in 10 years, simply by following a simple system. By the way, I'm going to give you the habits of wealthy people, a series of habits you can follow. And if you follow these habits, by the way, you will become rich, and far faster than you ever dreamed possible. Just like this man I told you about, who said that he was wrong. The speed of increase in income was incredible, he said. And everyone that he's taught the same method to has had the same experience. And so they did a 25-year research study to find out how some people earned far more than other people over the course of the same number of years. And what they found is that in business, or in almost any field, some people are in the top 1 or 2 or 3%, and they earn much, much more than average people. So they said, so who are the highest paid people in our society? And they settled upon the presidents, the senior executives of the Fortune 500 companies, the 500 biggest companies in the world. And the average income, which is followed every year, and sometimes it's followed every month, the highest paid people earn about $10.3 million per year. They earn an average last year of 303 times the average of the people who work in their company. And of course, there's a lot of politics. Why is it that some people earn so much more than other people, and this is not fair, and everybody should be equal, and so on. But there's two types of arguments. There's economic arguments, which is how much you earn, and there's political arguments. What do you say when you're running for office? And so the political arguments and the economic arguments are completely separate. So they took these 500 people and they looked at the fact that they were earning 303 times the average of people in their company. Wow. So they said, how could one person be earning 300 times as much as people in the same company who started off at the same jobs and maybe even started off at the same time? But after a period of 10 or 20 or 30 years, these people are earning 300 times as much. So they concluded that the reason is because these people are very smart, brilliant. These people must have graduated from the finest universities and come from the best families and had special skills. So they went back to the beginning of their careers when they all started their jobs, and they found that none of that was true, is that everyone starts off very similar. And we call it this morning, we call it your earning ability. Is everyone starts off with similar earning ability. They earn very much the same when they take their first job. And then the race begins. And we call this the ladder of success, is they start to climb the ladder of income or earning ability. And your earning ability is your ability to get results that people will pay you for. This is your most important financial asset, is your ability to get results that people will pay you for. If you want to earn more money, you must get more results, and you must get them faster. So this earning ability, they went back and they found that at the beginning of their careers, as they began to climb the ladder of financial success, they found it was very simple, is that successful people climb the ladder by learning new skills. If you learn a new skill, you climb the ladder of financial success. You become more valuable. You earn more money. And companies are very willing to pay you more money. So they looked at these people who had reached the top, the highest paid people in America, if not the world, and they looked at their career path, and they found that they all turned out to have one strategy. I'm going to pass this strategy on to you. This is 25 years of research. I think it's one of the greatest breakthroughs in success ever discovered. I have been using this strategy all my life, and I think it will enable you to be more successful faster than any other single strategy. What they found is that when these people started their careers, they went to their boss and they said, "Boss, I want to be a big success here. What one skill can I learn that will help me more than any other skill to be more valuable in this company? What one skill will increase my earning ability?" And the boss would say, "Well, if you were very good at negotiating, that would make you very valuable in our company. If you were good at selling or at team building or at reading financial statements," it's just different depending upon the different company, and that would make you more valuable. So these people decided, and sometimes somebody gave them advice, and sometimes they just decided by themselves that they were going to become very good at this one skill. So they sat down and they drew out a plan, a goal and a plan, and they began to work every week to develop the one skill. Now, many people try to learn many skills. They learn a little bit here, and they read a little bit here, and they listen to a little audio program, preferably a Bryan-Tracy audio program. And as a result, their skills improve. But the top people focused on learning one skill, a single skill, the one skill that could help them more than any other skill. So here's a great question, which has to do with results and success and determines the entire future of your life. What one skill, here's the question, what one skill would help you more than any other skill to double your income? What one skill would help you more than any other skill to double your results? What is it? And go and ask your boss. Ask other people. Look at everything that's happening, and then like a sniper in the military, the sniper shoots a single shot. As average soldiers shoot machine guns. But the snipers actually kill more people in war than average soldiers. But they will wait sometimes for an hour, sometimes 3 hours to make a single shot. And they'll make just one shot. And that one shot is more damaging than all the machine guns. They say that in war it takes about 5,000 machine gun bullets to kill one person. As a sniper, it only takes one shot. So they would focus in on the single shot, and they would work for a month, 6 months, a year, and they would just work every day to become better at that one skill. And after a few months or a year, people would start to say to them, "You know, you're very good at that. And they say, I am? Yes, you're very good at that skill. You're very good at selling. You're very good at negotiating. And that would be their sign that it was time to move on to the next skill. So they would tick it off, and they would then ask, now, what one skill would help me the most to double my income? And they just kept asking that. What one skill would help me the most to double my results? Everything is results. Nothing matters in business except your ability to get results that people will pay you for. Now, it's an interesting point in the world of work, here in Korea or anywhere in the world. The average person wastes 50% of their time every day, 50% of their time. And this has been tracked by very large multinational companies that I have worked for, and they've tracked and they've used cameras and videos. And they waste their time primarily in talking with their friends most of the day, and playing with their email, and playing with their text messaging. And what they do is 50% of the time. Now that's the average. Half or above, half or below. But most people waste half of their time. And as a result, they don't understand why they go around in circles in their careers. There are some people who have not been promoted for 5 or 10 years. Or if they have, it's 1 or 2% per year, because they're not getting more results. But there's always one skill that can help you a lot to get more and better results now, that can help you to move ahead in your career faster than anything else. So let's do an exercise. And this exercise is very important. If you do not know the answer to this question, then you must find out the answer. You must ask your boss. You must ask your coworkers. You must sit down and think. You must look at the highest paid and most successful people in your company to look at what they are doing so that they earn so much money. So I want you to ask and write down the question, is what one skill, if I were to develop and do it at an excellent level, what one skill would help me the most to double my results, to double my contribution, to double my productivity, and eventually to double your income? What one skill would that be? Please write that down. Please write that down. It's very important that you know this skill. And by the way, if you're going to be successful in business, I'm going to give you an idea. Is never go anywhere without a pen. Never go to the bathroom without a pen. Never answer the phone without a pen. Never pick up a piece of paper without a pen. With my children, and my daughter Christina is here with me, she came on this trip with me, she knows that I always carry a blue pen and a red pen. And so my children will say, Daddy, can I have something to write with? And I'll say, blue or red? And they know that I always have a blue or a red pen, and always more than one. Is I will not do anything without a pen to write things down. When I was working my way up, starting from nothing, I read a success book, and in the success book it had a piece of advice, and I never forgot it. And the piece of advice was, think on paper. Think on paper. All successful people write things down. Unsuccessful people stand there, and they don't write anything down. Now, what is your memory like if you don't write things down? Well, you will remember maybe 10% of what you hear until tomorrow. And then after that, it will just drift away like cigarette smoke. Just disappears. So you can actually go to a seminar and hear the same things that other people hear, and you'll forget it completely. Like all these cigarette smoke knowledge. So for the rest of your life, write things down. And I didn't know very much when I was in my early 20s, but I thought that's a good idea. Write it down. And then there's a second rule that says when you think of a new idea, write it down. When you read a new idea, write it down. When you hear or see something on television, quickly write it down. But you should not have to get up and go looking for a piece of paper and a pen. You should have it sitting there, so you're always writing things down. One idea that you quickly write down can change your life forever. For many years, the most successful company, most respected company in the world, not the most successful, Apple has been the most successful for about 10 years. But General Electric grew from $6 billion in sales when Jack Welch became the president. 20 years later, General Electric was doing $160 billion in sales. It was one of the most profitable companies in the world. And then Jack Welch retired, and there was a little story in the newspaper about him last week. His income from his success, results, was almost $500 million. He's one of the richest men in the world. And he said one of the most important ideas he ever learned was very simple. He was sitting at a meeting, and Jack Welch always asks questions, and he always writes down the answers. Ask the question. And one of the questions he asked other executives is, what's the best idea you've heard lately for business success? And he asks everybody. If he sits next to them at dinner, if he sits next to them at a meeting, what's the best idea you've heard lately about business success? And he writes it down. He said in Fortune magazine, one of the most prominent business magazines in the world, he was asked, what is the key to his success? He said the great key that launched him to huge success was a thing called product velocity. And you have to read to understand what that means. The word velocity means speed. And product velocity means how often you sell your product. What is the speed of turnover? So do you sell your products once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year? Jet airplanes may sell their products twice a year. Cars, 10 times a year. Food and things like that, maybe 30 times a year. So the idea of velocity, how can you speed up the number of times you manufacture and sell your product? He said he went back to General Electric worldwide and revolutionized his whole company. And everybody in that company thought just one thing: how can we increase the speed at which we make sales? How can we make more sales faster? Because we have the same costs and the same level of profit, but if you could do it twice a year rather than 1 time a year, you double the size of your profit. If you could do it 3 times a year, like General Electric, eventually became the biggest, most profitable company of its kind in the world. So he said that one idea, sitting next to one person, and he asked him, what's your best idea? He just wrote it down. And it transformed the company, transformed his career, made him one of the richest men in the world. Just asking the question and writing it down. So from that day to this day, I write down everything I learn. I write down everything I read that is of value to me, and sometimes one idea can change your life completely. And I'll talk about this a little bit more as we go along. So your job is to always think, what are the results that are expected of me? And when I started off my career, I did not have any money, and I got a job in sales, straight sales, knocking on doors from door to door. First of all, during the daytime, I would knock on the doors of offices, and in the evenings, I would knock on the doors of apartments and homes, and I would sell my product. And sometimes I would work from 8 in the morning until 9 or 10 o'clock at night and not make one sale. But I would get up early in the morning, and I would go out. When people came to work, I would be knocking on doors and selling my product. After about 6 months of this, I asked one of the top salespeople in my company, what are you doing differently from me? Why is it? And this man was earning 10 times as much as anybody else. He was selling the same product on the same streets to the same people at the same price, in the same market, with the same competition, with the same prices. And he was selling 10 times as much as anyone else. Even better, he would start work at 9 or 9:30 in the morning. He would finish work at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He would go out to nice restaurants and nightclubs. He had a beautiful home. He had a pocket full of money. He had a great life. And I said, why are you so successful? And he said, well, show me your sales method, your sales process, and I will give you feedback and tell you where you could improve. And he said, well, I said, I don't have a sales process. He said, well, what do you do when you meet a customer? Well, I just start talking as fast as I can about my product. He said, no. He said, selling is a science. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Over the years, I learned that selling has 7 parts. If you follow the 7 parts, you make sales. It's very much like a recipe in the kitchen. If you take the right ingredients in the right proportions or quantities, and you mix them in the right way, at the end you get a beautiful dish. Soon, instead of taking 1 day to make a sale, I could make a sale in 1 hour. One day, I got up in the morning. I did this every morning. I would get up and read for 2 to 3 hours. And then I would go out and practice what I learned. One day, 6:30 in the morning, I was reading a book on sales, and it taught a specific method of closing the sale. And I thought, that is a great method to ask a person to buy the product. So I went out that morning, and up to this time, people would say, well, let me think about it, let me think it over, and I will tell you in a few days or a few weeks. And I would say, okay, thank you, and I would go on to the next person and the next person. Well, I read this wonderful technique. When a person says, let me think it over, what do you say? So I wrote it down, my notes, and the next time someone said that to me at about 8:30 in the morning, I just said the words from the book. And the person said, oh, okay, then I will buy now. And I was astonished. So I went to the next office, and they said the same thing. They all said the same thing. Let me think it over. Let me think about it. Leave the material with me. Call me back in a week or a month. And so I would say what I read in the book, and the person said, okay, then I'll buy it. I made 3 sales in 45 minutes. Before, I was making 1 sale a day. I tripled my income in the first hour with one technique. Within a year, I was making 10 times as much, earning 10 times as much as I'd ever earned before. Soon I had my own apartment and my own car and a pocket full of money and a wonderful life. And I was flying around the world on beautiful jets, and I was eating in beautiful restaurants in some of the capitals of the world. I couldn't believe it. And then I started to buy clothes. And I bought beautiful new clothes from the top tailors. I bought shoes and shirts, and I could not believe how quickly my life transformed by learning one additional skill that went with my other skills. And I have found over the years that this happens to everyone. If you continue to learn and take notes, and then you practice what you learned, your income explodes. It's just unbelievable. But here's another thing that happens, is your self-confidence explodes. Is by learning the new skills and getting these results, you become so confident and so positive that nobody can stop you. You are just so eager to be successful. So going back to the question is, what one skill would help you the most to double your income? Write it down with the pen that you now have. I saw people reaching for their pen. So everybody has a pen now, or most people have a pen. And then I want you to tell the person next to you the one skill that could help you the most to double your income. So tell the person next to you that one skill. What's the one skill that would help you the most to double your income? Tell the person next to you. When I was studying success at the beginning, was that the greatest law of the universe is the law of cause and effect. This law says that everything happens for a reason, that nothing happens by accident. And if you want to achieve a particular type of success, you must be clear about the goal, and then you must find someone else who has achieved the same goal, and then you must do the same thing until you get the same results. I have trained more than 2 million people in sales over the last 20 or 30 years. Many of these people started with nothing. And today they're rich. Today they have beautiful homes. Today they live on the hills looking over the water. Today they travel and they put their children in private schools. And they struggled for years until I taught them this cause and effect. If you do these things, you get this result. And this law comes from Aristotle, which goes back to 2,500 years. And he wrote down is that you control your own destiny with this law. Now, in science, a law is always true for every person at all times. It's very much like gravity. If you drop something, ta-da, it falls down. It never falls up or sideways. It always falls down at a certain speed. It's the same thing with the law of cause and effect. If you want to earn twice as much, it's quite simple. You find someone who is earning twice as much as you in your field, who at one time was earning half as much, and then they did something different, and now they're earning twice as much. And you do the same thing they did, and you earn twice as much as well. And this is a shocker for most people. I was reading a book recently, and this book sold 1 million copies, and it had one simple idea. Not even a good idea. But here was the idea, is that there are two types of people in the world. There are people who have a fixed idea, a fixed mind, and people who have a flexible mind. People who have a fixed mind believe that they cannot change their lives or their future. Whatever is going on today is fixed, almost like steel or a nail. And so they never try. They accept that what they are earning today is all they can earn. They accept that the standard of living they have is the same standard. But you are different. You are different in that you know that you can control your entire life by simply choosing to do something different, by the law of cause and effect. So what you just do is you say, I want to earn twice as much. And then you say, who else is earning twice as much as me? And if you want to, go and ask them, what are you doing differently from me? Why do you think you're earning twice as much? And what we found worldwide, what I found, is that people will tell you. They'll say, well, if you do this, you'll get this result. And you say, okay, and you go, just like driving a car. If you follow this way, you'll get to this destination. So you just do what they do, and very soon you get the same result that they do. And pretty soon you're earning twice as much as well, maybe even 3 times as much. Within a year, I was earning much more than the man who gave me this advice in the first place, because he learned the advice accidentally, and then he sort of leveled off, whereas I became very hungry to learn new things. And I began to buy and read books on selling, and then when they made me a sales manager, I read books on sales management, and then when I started my own business, I read books on business success, and then books on time management. And I read every book I could find on every subject that was necessary for success, cause and effect. And whatever I learned, I applied. And then I got the same result. And you say, it can't be that simple. It's not simple, but it is simple, but it's not easy. It takes hard work and tremendous discipline. In fact, they've done hundreds, well, let's say 100 years of study into thousands of people who started with nothing and became wealthy. And what they find was that they all have one quality in common. And the quality is self-discipline. They all discipline themselves. They say, this is what I want to achieve, but in order to achieve this, I have to do these things every day. And so they discipline themselves to do those things every day. Now, let me tell you just a little story about myself. I told you when I started off, I had no money at all. And I found that each person has turning points in their life. And I learned you discover these turning points often many years after. And the first turning point for me, and what I find, I read a book on this last week, and I read 2 or 3 other books, they're all the same, is that the turning point for me was the discovery that I was responsible for my own life. And interestingly enough, this is one of the most important qualities of leadership. Leaders accept complete responsibility for their own lives. They never make excuses. They never blame other people. They never complain. They never criticize. They accept that I am where I am today because of myself. If I'm not happy with it, I must change it. And then they go to work to change it. So my turning point came when I was a construction laborer. I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when it was very cold, and I would take 3 buses to get to work on my construction job. And I would get to work and start work at about 8 o'clock, and I would work all day, and then I would take 3 buses to get back home. And I'd get home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I would eat a little food from my little kitchen, and I didn't have money to go out to do anything. So I would sit there and I would read. And one day, I still remember, it was like a flash, is that this was my life. My life was never going to change. I was going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was going to travel for 2 or 3 hours to my laboring job. I was going to work carrying building materials all day. And then I was going to come home and sit in this little one-room apartment. My apartment was so small that the bed was actually the couch. And you had to close it up when you got up in the morning so you could walk around. And then when it was time to go to bed, you opened up the couch and you slept on this little couch. And that was my life. And so I decided that from that moment onward, I was going to accept 100% responsibility for my life. And my life changed forever. I still remember that. And I read book after book from successful people, and every one of them says the same thing. A major turning point, sometimes the major turning point, was when they realized that they were responsible. No more excuses. You're responsible. And their whole life changed after that. The next turning point for me was when I discovered goals. I didn't know anything about goals. I felt that life was a series of random or accidental events. I did not know the law of cause and effect. And so when things happened, I would just shrug my shoulders and say it was good luck or bad luck. And then I learned about goals. And over the years, I found that all successful people have goals. And the most successful people have very clear goals written down that they work on all the time. So you want to be a big success. Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to say, what are my goals? What is it that I want to accomplish? Do you want to be wealthy? Do you want to have a big house and a nice car? Do you want to travel and things like that? Well, you can do them. How do we know that these are possible for you? The answer is because hundreds of thousands and millions of people, starting with nothing, have achieved these goals already. They wrote them down. They made a plan. They disciplined themselves to work on their plan every single day, 6 or 7 days a week, and achieved their goal. And what hundreds of thousands or millions of people all over the world have done, you can do as well. You can do it as well. You just simply have to have the discipline to do it. And the greatest enemy of discipline is procrastination. People say, well, I'm going to do that, but not now. I'm going to do that, but not this month. I'm going to do that, but not this year. But successful people say, that's my goal, and I'm going to start doing it right now. So that was the second turning point in my life. I'm now the best-selling author in the world on the subject of goals. I love goals. I read about goals. I write goals. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. But goal setting changes your life completely. The third turning point for me, and there have been many, but the 3 big ones, I call these the golden triangle, is first of all, you are responsible. No one is going to do anything for you. Second of all, you have to have goals. You have to know exactly what it is you want. And then number 3 is you have to dedicate yourself to continuous learning. You must be learning new things all the time. So you say, I am responsible, and I'm responsible for achieving my goals. And what we find is that for every goal that you want to achieve, there's a skill that you must learn. The skill and the goal are locked together. So we go back to what we said. Simple goal, double your income. Well, we know that there's hundreds of thousands of millions of people who are earning twice as much as you in your field. And they're not smarter than you. They're not better educated than you. They have no advantages over you. Some of them have had lives that are much worse than you. But they had the discipline to keep learning. Which takes us back, by the way, to this 25-year study onto success. And they found that these people who started at the bottom and began studying every day to develop one skill at a time, these people eventually earned 300 times as much as the average person. So the researchers at a major university looked into their lifestyle and found that when young people in their 20s finish school or college, were out playing with their friends and socializing and watching television and sports, these people would go home each night and study. They would go home each night and begin to read. And when I read this, I said, that's me. That's my story. That's what I did every night, is I went home and studied. Eventually, I became very good at sales, and I traveled a lot. So I would buy a small apartment, and I would buy or rent an apartment. I would buy or rent a bed and a desk. Always a bed and a desk. And I would set up the desk like my little study corner. And I would get books and papers, and I would come home every night when my friends were out socializing. I would come home every night and I would sit down and I would study for 2 to 3 hours. And I didn't notice the difference for many years, but then the difference starts to take place. Bigger and bigger and bigger. I didn't realize that I was following a success path that all successful people have traveled. Forbes magazine, which is the second most successful financial magazine in the English-speaking world, they interviewed last year a complete survey of billionaires. And you know, we have more billionaires today than we've ever had before, except the number of billionaires has actually increased in the last year. When I began to study this back in the 80s and 90s, there were less than 25 billionaires. Today, there's about 2,500 billionaires. And so they asked, how many of these billionaires started with nothing and earned their way up? And what did they do? Law of cause and effect. What did they do to start with nothing and become billionaires? And so they interviewed the billionaires, and they said, yes, I started with nothing. It took 15 years of hard work to learn my basic skills and to start to succeed greatly. For a long time, I was just learning, making mistakes and learning. And so they asked them, what do you think is the major reason for your financial success? And they wrote down the answers. They wrote down the answers. Write it down. Number one, goals was the most important thing, is they wrote down goals to earn a lot of money, to be successful in their business. Number two, continuous learning, is they read and learned all the time. Every day they learned something new. Every day they bought books. It's interesting, when you go into the homes of poor people, what's the first thing you see? And the answer is the biggest television set, the biggest Samsung television set that they can afford. And the television set is on 5 to 7 hours each night. If you go into the homes of rich people, what do you see? You see books everywhere. Warren Buffett, which I was going to come to, but Warren Buffett spends about 70 to 80% of his time each day reading. If you go into Warren Buffett's home or office, there's reading material everywhere. Carlos Slim, who is one of the richest men in the world, a Mexican, he bought the New York Times so that he could have first access to all the news in the world, and he reads 6 or 7 hours every day. You start to look at all the billionaires, self-made billionaires, they're all reading all the time. They're continually learning. So Warren Buffett actually reads about 6 to 7 hours every day. He comes home, and that's all he does is learn new things. He does detailed study of each investment that he makes. And then he makes an investment, and that investment may earn him a profit of billions of dollars. And he started off with $2,000. So, constant reading is upgrading your skills, setting goals and working towards your goals, and constantly asking, what is the skill that will help me the most to achieve this goal? Another quality that the self-made billionaires mentioned was risk-taking. They were able to take a risk. They were not afraid to try something new with the possibility of loss. 80 to 90% of adults avoid risk at all costs. They don't even want to risk a little bit of money. But what billionaires, self-made billionaires would do is they would set it as a goal. They would learn everything they could about the investment. They would take in new information and experiment. They would try things out at a small level to lower the possibility of risk, but they were always willing to take a risk. Now, does this mean that you will become a billionaire if you do these things? No. But it usually means that you will never succeed at anything if you don't set goals, dedicate yourself to continuous learning, and take a risk. Try something new or different. The greatest enemy of success here in South Korea, or anywhere in the world, is what we call the comfort zone. Now, the comfort zone is the area where you become comfortable doing what you're doing today. And people slip into this comfort zone very quickly. And then they fight and struggle to stay in the comfort zone. They don't like to move or change or do something different. Whereas the only time you can have success is if you try something completely new and different. And you move out of your comfort zone and you become uncomfortable. You try something new and different and you become uncomfortable. And that's the only possibility you have for growth. So you have to set big goals. Interesting, when we talked about this, they did a study on leaders in 1995, and they interviewed 93 leaders over 5 years. They actually went and lived in their houses, and they lived with their families, and they ate breakfast and dinner with them, and they asked them a lot of questions. One of the things they found is that all these top leaders were very careful about slipping into the comfort zone. They were always taking action to move out of the comfort zone, to try new and different things. So how do they keep themselves out of the comfort zone? One of the most popular strategies is that they would set big goals for themselves. They would set goals that were so big that it was impossible to achieve these goals in the comfort zone. You had to move out of the comfort zone and take risks, try new and different things in order to achieve anything. And so this willingness to set big goals, so I said earlier, is set a goal to earn 10 times as much as you are earning today. And I will give you a 7-step formula used by wealthy people. And if you practice this formula, you will earn 10 times as much. In fact, I used this formula for myself and increased my income 10 times in 10 years. And I began to teach it to small business people and to salespeople. And I had a man come up to me in my seminar and he said, you know, that formula of yours doesn't work. I said, really? He said, yes. He said, it does not take 10 years. It takes less than 10 years. It only takes 6 or 7 years. And all over the world where I've taught this formula is people tell me it takes 7 years, 8 years, 6 years to increase your income 10 times. One man was selling used cars, and I taught him this formula and his team, and he began to practice it every day. I still remember him. I remember his face. I remember his sense of humor. Very nice man. His name was Chris. And he had this big smile. He said, you're too conservative with your formula. It doesn't take 10 years. It only takes 7. He said, this year I will earn 10 times as much as I was earning when I first met you. And I used to work for a company, and now that company hires me as a consultant and pays me more each year as a consultant than they paid 10 times as much as they paid me to work for them for the entire year. And so now I live in a big, beautiful house. I have a lovely wife. I have beautiful children in private schools. I drive a new car. He said, and I work less than I worked before. So do these things work? Yes, they do. They work. They will work if you will work. So they go back to these 500 top executives and they ask them, how much time do you spend each day, each week, each month studying? And these are major university studies. One of my friends, who's dead now, was a Nobel Prize winning economist. He won a Nobel Prize for making a great breakthrough in free market economics, just spending years of research and proving that if you do certain things in a certain way, laws of cause and effect, you dramatically increase your probabilities of earning a very high income. And I remember I had dinner with him. Very nice man. His name was Gary Becker in Chicago. Very world famous. Very fine man. And he said, in his study, he said that the great majority of people is they flatten out and they never improve after their first year of work. Only a small percentage of people will keep improving and getting better and better and better. So this is one study. The other study was from the University of Chicago, and they were looking at the reasons why people went up and up and up. And they came to the same conclusions. And so they asked the people in their study, how many hours did you spend studying to develop your skills? And the average was 10 hours per week. We talked about this morning. 10 hours per week. That means that they invested 10 hours each week to improve their skills. And they used that time during the week. So they would spend 2 hours per night, 5 days per week, to upgrade their skills. And they would upgrade their skills one skill at a time. And that was just their lifestyle. They would get up, go to work, come home, have dinner with their family, and study from 8 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock. And they would learn new things, one skill at a time. They would do it 5 days a week. And so the question that I ask, and I always ask this, I said, how many people here would like to be wealthy? And everybody would like to be wealthy. Interesting thing, by the way, is if you upgrade your skills and you become wealthy, no matter what happens, you still go back to that skill level, that wealth level, and you still earn much more money. So I said, how many people here would like to become wealthy, have a beautiful house, earn a lot of money? And everybody wants it. So then we ask this question is, are you willing to invest 2 hours a night, 5 days a week, to become one of the wealthiest and most successful people in society? Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Because it's a law. It's the law of cause and effect. It's not a wish or a hope or a theory. It's a law. It works for everybody. Now, it may not work in North Korea, but it certainly works in South Korea. And it certainly works all over the world, in many, many countries in Asia. And it even works in poor countries if you simply invest in yourself 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. But it takes tremendous discipline to move out of the comfort zone and start doing that. And of course, you have to have a pen and a paper, and you have to write things down. And you have to review your notes. And then every day you have to practice what you learned. And if you do that, you will be absolutely amazed at how fast your life improves. Your income goes like this. I've met people who doubled and tripled their income in as little as 30 days after they began to practice this simple process. And it would be similar to losing weight or becoming physically fit. If I said to you that if you were to work out, exercise 2 hours every day, 5 days a week, how long do you think it would take you to become very healthy? If you stopped eating bad foods and you exercised 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, How long would it take you to become very fit? And the answer is, you say, well, very quickly. In a week, 2 weeks, a month, I could lose 5, 10 kilos. My health would be totally different. Yes. So what does it require? It requires self-discipline. Self-discipline. So what I want to do is I want to give you the 7 keys to leadership success. I have read probably 6,000 books in the course of my lifetime. Probably 1,000 of those are on management and leadership. And I've also written 19 books that are published all over the world. I have written a total of 82 books, if you can believe that. And my 82nd book, number 82, was on leadership. So I know a lot about the subject of leadership, right down to supervising, and managing, motivating, time management for managers. I know a lot of subjects. And so what I found is that there are 7 qualities of leaders that are learnable skills. You can learn them through practice until they become automatic. Almost every habit, we say that habits are hard to learn, but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to learn, but hard to live with. And so what I will teach you is some really good habits that are hard to learn. And Goethe, the German philosopher, said, everything is hard before it's easy. Everything is hard before it's easy. So when you start to develop a new habit, like the habit of continuous learning, then it's difficult at the beginning. It's very hard to discipline yourself to work and study each evening. But after that, it becomes automatic and easy. It becomes as automatic as brushing your teeth or taking a shower or anything else. And so that's what we'll do in the last part of this session, is I will teach you the 7 habits that are very simple habits. But if you practice them for a short period of time, you will very quickly develop them as habits, and you'll be completely different. So I said before, would you invest 2 hours a night, 5 days a week, to become one of the highest paid, most successful people in our society? And the answer is yes. So from now on, if you are not financially successful, if you have financial worries or problems, there's only one person in the whole world who is responsible. There's only one person. And who would that be? It's always ourselves. It's not a great miracle. It's always yourself. So what I worked out is that we say your personal leadership ability is the only limit on your success. If you become a better leader of yourself, you become a better leader of everyone around you. You become a better parent. If you are working in business, you become a better business person. You become more valuable. You get more results, better results, faster results. And people will pay you more to do your job. And this is 100% under your own control. One of the most important things you do, though, is you don't waste time. Well, remember, 50% of people waste their time. 50% of people talk to their friends, play with their computer, and talk on the phone, and so on. So the number one quality here, with regard to leadership, they did a study some years ago, and they looked at 3,300 studies of leadership that had been done going back to 600 years before Christ. And they looked at these studies to find out what were the most common qualities of leadership going back to Cyrus the Great in ancient Persia. And they found that there were certain qualities that they all had in common, but there were maybe 5. And then there's 5 more or 7 more skills that you need. The first quality they found is that leaders have vision. They have a clear vision of what they want to accomplish with their lives. And it's an exciting vision. It's a clear picture where their life is an exciting life, a happy life, beautiful home, beautiful business, high profits, good health. So you have a vision. And this morning we talked about the importance of creating a clear picture of what your life would look like if it was perfect, and as if you had no limitations at all. What would your life look like if it was perfect in every way? And we talked about your business and income life, your family life, your personal health, and of course, how much money you have working. One of the things we didn't talk about this morning, but I want to share it with you, is the importance of numbers. Numbers don't lie. Numbers tell the truth. And what they're finding now is that there are numbers attached to everything that you might want to accomplish in your life. And successful businesses have about 5 or 6 key numbers that they look at all the time. And there is one number that they look at several times each day. Every company has several numbers, but it always has one. So the question you have to ask is, what is the most important number in your business? If you are running your business, what's the most important number in your family life? What's the most important number? And that number more predicts success or failure than any other number. And you'll find that every really successful company has a clear number that predicts success more than anything else. I'll give you one of my favorite examples. I do seminars all over the world. One of the seminars that I give is on business, the 2-day MBA. And I gave this seminar in Stockholm, Sweden, 2 years ago. And last year I was back, and a man came up to me who had been through the seminar, and he said, that idea of the one number has transformed my business and my life. Transformed it. He said, we realized the most important number in our business was the number of referrals that we got from happy customers. What was the number of referrals that we got? Did they give us one referral? Most, by the way, most customers do not give even one referral. But what is their number? And the number was the number of referrals. So they sat everybody down and they said, we have to think all the time about how to get more referrals from happy customers. First of all, we have to make more sales. Second of all, we have to make those customers really happy so that they buy from us again and they tell their friends. And their friends come and buy from us. Because a referral from a happy customer is 15 times easier to sell to than a cold call or advertising. And it has zero cost. You don't have to pay for advertising in the television or email or anything else. There's no cost to a sale from a referral. So they began to work, and every day they would have a meeting for 30 to 60 minutes on how to make their customers happier so that they could get more referral business. He said within 1 year they increased their sales and their profits 15 times. 15 times. They became the fastest growing company of their kind in Europe. And they've grown 15 times. And I was, wow, 15 times. Imagine if you could grow your company 15 times with one simple focus on one number. Well, I shook hands with him and he was very happy, huggy, huggy. And he went away. And there was another man standing back waiting until everyone was gone. And then he came up to me and he said, I heard that man's story. Good story. He said, we did the same thing. My people, my executives went to the same seminar that you gave a year ago, and we grew 34 times in 1 year. We grew 34 times in 1 year by focusing everyone in the company on that one number, the number of happy customers who give us referrals. So I've just given you that as an idea. That idea can make you rich if you apply it. But it's a very simple idea. It has very low cost. It's not like you have to spend a lot of money. All you have to do is start thinking about it all the time. Is what can we do to make our customers so happy that they bring us new customers? And this method, this technique works in any business. Cause, effect. Make your customers happy, they bring you new customers at no cost. And if you make them happy, they bring you new customers at no cost. And pretty soon you're like the companies in this magazine article where you're growing 10 and 20 times in a year. Think about increasing your income 10 or 20 times in a year. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. There are some very successful people in this room who have been able to grow their companies very fast in a short period of time by focusing on making the staff happy and focusing on making the customers happy. And there's nothing complicated about it, and it has no cost. So anyway, here are the 7 requirements. Number 1 job of managers is to set goals and get results. It's to set and achieve goals. So the starting point of success is clarity with regard to your goals. What are your goals with regard to yourself, your own personal goals? What are your goals with regard to your business? And goals have a specific character, is they are written down and they are measurable and they have dates or timelines on them. And so when you have a goal that is written down and you show how you're going to measure it, what number will you attach to the goal, and then what date you want to achieve the goal, your whole business starts to grow very, very fast. And only 3% of adults have written goals. Only 3% of adults have written goals. I have given my goal-setting exercises to probably 2 or 3 million people all over the world. And I've been astonished is that 98% of those people have never written down their goals in their life. They've never written down their goals. Imagine deciding to go on a trip from one side of Seoul to the other, but you've never been to Korea, South Korea, and you've never traveled or driven in Seoul, and you decide to drive from one side of the country to the other to get to a particular restaurant, but you don't know the name of the restaurant and you don't know the address. How long would it take you to find the restaurant? That's how most people live their lives. They just drive around. So the second requirement is, number 2, is to market and innovate. Going back to what I said at the very beginning is that the heartbeat of your business is sales. It's marketing. It's attracting new customers and making sales to those people. And so your job has to be to focus on marketing and sales. Here's a question, what is the purpose of a business? And the answer is, the purpose of a business is to satisfy a customer. It is to create and keep a customer. It's to make a customer happy so they come back again. So what is the measure of business success? And the only measure of business success is customer satisfaction, is making customers happy. There's a man who built a business from an idea to sell shoes online, and he just sold the business to Amazon for $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion because the business is so successful. And he calls his business achieving happiness. He said, we are in the happiness business. We just happen to sell shoes. And so everybody in their company is taught every day, all the time. Our job is to make customers happy. If we make customers happy, we will achieve all of our other goals. So the only thing that makes customers happy is to market and innovate, is to find faster, better, cheaper ways to help people to buy your product and to be happy. In fact, the very most successful companies in the world are the ones that achieve the greatest happiness from their customers. Now, the third responsibility of management is to set priorities and work on key tasks. One of the things we know is that there's never enough time to do everything. And so you always have to set priorities. You have to set priorities on money and on your time and on the time and resources of everyone else. You have to think very clearly about what is the most important thing that you can do at every minute. But your job is to set priorities and work on key tasks. One of the greatest wastes in the world of business is that people spend so much time doing things of low value or no value. The fourth major responsibility of management is to focus and concentrate where excellent results are possible. I mentioned this morning that Warren Buffett and Bill Gates father, 3 of the richest men in the world, all said that the ability to focus is the #1 skill for success in our century. Your ability to focus and concentrate on one thing at a time is absolutely essential. If you can do that, you can accomplish extraordinary things. But if you cannot do that, you must work for someone who will supervise you and make sure that you do it. So think, and you always have to ask, where should you focus and concentrate? What is the one area, or maybe two areas, where you should focus and concentrate all of your attention every single day? Warren Buffett, who is today worth $350 billion, he was asked, what is your secret of success? And his answer was, it's very simple. He said, I say no to everything. I just don't do anything that is not the one or two things that are the most important for my success or the success of my business. I just say no. I come in to work in the morning. I spend 80% of my time studying and learning key information for my business, and I say no to everything else. So one of the most powerful ways for you to be successful is to just say no. No, 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 no. Just say no. That is one of the most powerful success principles. Warren Buffett and Steve Jobs of Apple Computer became friends in the later years of Steve Jobs' life. And he said this was the greatest advice he ever got, is to just keep saying no and keep focusing on only those two or three things that were responsible for most of your success. Now, number 5 is solve problems and make decisions. Every single person is in the job of solving problems. No matter what is written on your business card, your real job is problem solving. Many years ago, IBM Corporation hired me to give 25 seminars on problem solving and decision making for their senior managers all over the country. It was a great experience, and it forced me to spend hundreds of hours studying problem solving and decision making before I could give the course. And what I learned was that this is the central skill of management and leadership, the ability to solve the problems that face you every day as a manager. And you'll find that your very best leaders are leaders who are capable of solving problems. And the way that you become excellent at solving problems is a very simple twist, is you think and talk about the solution all the time. Does anybody here have any problems? Does anyone here have any problems? Say yes. Say yes. And so you can say it. Everybody has problems. In fact, the only thing that stands between where you are and your goal is problems and obstacles and difficulties. So therefore, your primary job in life is to solve the problems and remove the obstacles and difficulties. To the degree to which you solve those problems, you will be successful and happy. What makes you happy is solving your problems and achieving your goals. What makes you unhappy and frustrated is not being able to solve your problems, is not being able to solve the problems of your company. So what they found is that average people, the bottom 80%, think and talk about problems all the time and who is to blame. But top people think and talk about solutions all the time and what actions they can take immediately to solve the problem. So from now on, whenever you have a problem of any kind, the first question you ask is, what action do we take now? What do we do? How do we solve the problem? Forget about who did this or who did that. Always ask, what is the solution? Think of your biggest problem in life today and ask the question, what is my biggest solution for that? What is my biggest problem and what is the best solution for my biggest problem? Sometimes just solving one main problem in your life can double and triple and 10 times the quality of your life. Change your life. Sometimes finding one solution, like velocity of turnover, can be worth hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. One simple insight that you hadn't thought of before. What I do when I read, and I read about 2 or 3 hours a day, is I'm always looking for other companies or businesses that have problems and obstacles, and I'm always looking for ways to solve those, move them out of the way. And sometimes you can find an idea that is unbelievable. It will change your life forever. So number 6 is lead by example. This is the 6th quality of leaders. Leading by example means that you carry yourself as though everyone was watching you and that everyone was going to do the same thing that you did. And you make sure that you dress the way you would want everyone else to dress. You manage your time the way you would want other people to manage their time. You treat other people the way you would want other people to treat you. Is you constantly hold yourself up as a role model. And what they find is that leaders throughout history always think that everyone is watching them because everybody is watching you. When you're the leader, everyone is watching you and they're talking about you behind your back. And they're telling other people what you did and what you said. So you set high standards for yourself. I have 4 children, and one of the things that I learned was that children shape their whole personality about 50 or 60% by watching their parents and listening to their parents and acting the way their parents talk. So if you want to raise happy children, be the kind of person that you want your children to turn into. If you want your children to be thoughtful and hardworking and punctual, then practice it yourself, because your children are going to grow up just like you. Your children, when they become adults, will act just like you. And you will be responsible. And there's enormous amounts of research on the impact that parents have on their children. And the 7th requirement is to perform and get results, is to work on your most important results every minute of every day. Your most important job is to make sure that everybody working with you is focusing on your most important their most important results every single day. There are some companies, by the way, that are extremely productive. The people in those companies accomplish incredible results. And those companies are all run by leaders who keep everyone focused on results. So the question you have to ask is, what results are expected of you? And of all the results that are expected of you, what is the most important result? If you could only achieve one result in your business, what one result would help you the most to be successful in your work? What is it? Do you know what it is? You've got to know the answer to this question. If you're not clear about the most important result that you can get every hour of every day, then you will be like a driver in Seoul driving around with no map. Remember, 97% of adults have no roadmap. They just drive around. And when you start to be very clear about your goals and focus on results all the time, you actually transform your life. Okay, so we have one last part. Aristotle wrote, 350 years BC, before Christ, he wrote that human beings are creatures of habit, is that successful people have success habits, and they automatically do the same things every day. And as a result, they accomplish 10, 20, 50, like my friend that I told you about, 100 times as much as an average person. This man said that his father was in the army, and he had no mother, and he grew up in a small house, and he had no money, and yet by developing success habits, he was financially independent by the time he was 36. Never had to worry about money again, which, by the way, is a really good goal to set for yourself. Here's another point. If you don't set that as a goal, you won't achieve it. You will never achieve financial independence by luck. You'll only achieve it by taking responsibility, writing it down as a goal, and then dedicating yourself to lifelong learning. So what I've written down for you for this talk is I've written down the 7 habits of highly successful people based on my tens of thousands of hours, tens of thousands of books, and everything else. And here they are. And they're very simple. And as I said before, everything is hard before it's easy. But once it becomes automatic, then it's just as easy for you to do it as to not do it. A friend of mine who is dead now, he said that everything that is hard to do is also, that is easy to do, is also easy not to do. If it's easy to do, to get up early in the morning, to get started, to work hard, to manage your time, if it's easy to do it, it's easy not to do it. And that is the number one reason why people fail. They say, well, what you're saying is simple. Write down your goals and work on them every day. Yes. Very easy to do, but very easy not to do. And human beings have a weakness, and the weakness is that human beings are lazy. All human beings worldwide are lazy. I studied this in economics, and I studied this in psychology. And so if it's easy to do, it's easy not to do, which is the reason why people fail. What a terrible thought. Imagine that you are capable of earning 5 or 10 times as much as you're earning today, and all you have to do that is to do what is easy not to do. Just discipline yourself. So here are the 7 habits of highly productive people, of leaders. Number 1 is the habit of daily goal setting, is writing down your goals every day. I've had more people tell me that this has made them rich than any other single exercise they ever heard in their lives. People who had spent enormous amounts of money and months and years, and with this simple technique, they doubled, tripled their income, became wealthy. And what you do is simply this, is you get yourself a spiral notebook, like a school notebook, and every morning you wake it up and you write down goals and today's date. And then you take a clean sheet of paper and you turn over the page from yesterday and you write down your 10 most important goals. And you can write them down. You write them down differently every day. So each day you write them down, you'll find the goals may become in a different order, or they may be expressed differently. But every day you write down your goals. And then next morning you turn it over the page so you can't see it. And then you write down your goals again. And every time you write your goals, it's like programming the goals deeper and deeper into your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind then works on your goals 24 hours a day. And they start to happen. The subconscious mind activates the law of attraction. So you start to find yourself moving faster and faster toward the goal, and the goal is moving faster and faster toward you. And what does it take? A pen. And a little pad of paper. And I have had so many thousands of people say, this simple exercise made them rich, changed their life. It was so simple. They could not believe how fast they began to achieve their goals. It's very much, this exercise, rewriting your goals every day, is very much like stepping on the accelerator of your potential. You start to move faster and faster towards your goals every time you do it, and your goals start to move faster towards you. So, A, your goals must be in writing, and they must be in handwriting, not typed, but in handwriting. There's something about writing that creates a connection between the head and the hand, and then back again. And when you write down your goals, your subconscious and superconscious mind work on the goals all the time. Read and review your goals every day. Just like if you were traveling on the ocean, you sit down and check out where you are and your destination. So read and review your goals each day. And then 3 is do something every day that moves you towards your most important goal. Everyone has several goals, but we all have one goal that's more important than any other goal. So ask yourself, what one goal, if you achieved it, would have the greatest positive impact on your life? And every day, resolve to do at least one thing that moves you toward your most important goal. Now, if I came in here 2 hours ago and just told you this, goal setting in writing, review them each day, and do something towards your most important goal, you could all go home and you'd have one of the greatest success secrets ever discovered. More people have become rich by rewriting their goals each day and taking action on their most important goal. It sounds so simple, but it's also easy not to do. And so what I do with my clients, my coaching clients, is I say, look, just try this for 1 month, 30 days. Get up in the morning and write your goals for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, if you do not see any progress, you can stop. And no one ever stops. People say I made more progress in 30 days than I made in 3 years. They could not believe the difference it makes. So please give it a try. Now the second habit is the habit of daily planning, is to make a list of everything that you can do each day before you begin, and then organize the list by priority, and then select the most important thing that you do, and then begin work on your most important task immediately. Now that sounds very simple, but it's the same as checking your map or your GPS system before you start traveling. Get everything organized. So we say make a list, set priorities, and then start and work on your top priority. This sounds so simple, and you know something? It is the key to doubling and tripling and increasing your income 10 times. So you're always working on the most important thing you can do to help you to achieve the most important goal you can set for yourself. And you will be astonished. And what does it cost? It costs a little bit of ink. It's right in here. I think is it here? Yeah. It costs a little bit of ink. And if you can't afford the ink, then I'll buy it for you. But that's all that it takes, and it transforms your life. And it transforms everybody's life, because it's the law of cause and effect. So if the law is true for me, it's true for you. It's true for everyone. Astonishing. Now, habit number 3 is the habit of focus and concentration. As Warren Buffett said, and Bill Gates' father, the ability to focus is the most important quality for success in the modern age. If you can't focus, you must work for someone else who will supervise you. So today we have employers and we have employees. In fact, the statistics don't change very much, but if you take 100 people working today, you have 1 who is the big boss, you have 4 who are the secondary level bosses, you have 15 who are supervisors and managers, and then you have 80% who just work. And those 80% have to be supervised by the other people. And they have to be paid, because the managers and the big bosses have homes and cars and children in private schools, and they have to be paid. So where do they get the money? It's they take it away from the people who don't do their work. They take it away from the people who have to be supervised to do their work. So we say here is select your most important task first thing in the morning, and then begin work on it immediately, and then concentrate single-mindedly until it is 100% complete. And this seems so simple, but I wrote a book, and my book, Eat That Frog, is the best-selling time management book in history. It's already sold almost 10 million copies in 43 countries. It's coming out again. It will sell another 10 million copies. And why? It's because everybody who reads that book and follows that book doubles and triples and increases their productivity 10 times. And what's the secret? It's very simple. Select your most important task, start immediately, and keep working until it's complete. That's all. And then go on to your next task. And more people than you can dream of have said, that simple technique made me rich. It made me rich. It made me rich. So number 4 is the habit of continuous learning. And the habit of continuous learning, I fell in love with this. When I was 24 years old and I discovered it, and I saw my life start to improve at such a rapid rate, even today, I just am so happy with the power of continuous learning. So what does this mean? It means read 30 to 60 minutes each day. What they found, by the way, is that wealthy people, rich people, read an hour each day or more. It doesn't seem like a lot, but 1 hour per day will translate into 1 book each week. The average adult does not read 1 nonfiction book in a year. If you read 1 book on your business each year, you get the equivalent of a PhD at a leading university each year. You get the equivalent of a doctorate on your wall. If you just read in your field 1 hour each day, 50 books a year. Unbelievable. And I've had many people, as I told you, who double and triple their income, sometimes within a month, just by reading every day. So you don't try to read 50 hours at a time. You just simply ask, what's the best business book on this subject? And your friends will tell you. And you just read 1 hour each day. Now, number two is listen to educational audio programs in your car. Educational audio programs are considered the greatest breakthrough in learning since the invention of the printing press. There's something about auditory listening that is phenomenal. Now, we go in cycles with regard to listening. And when I first began to listen to audio programs, my life exploded. And then I produced audio programs, cassettes of my own, and then CDs, and then DVDs, and so on. Today, audiobooks are coming back with a company in the U.S. called Audible. And audiobook sales grew 32% last year. The fastest growing form of education in the world is listening to audio programs. And so we say, turn your car into a university on wheels. Whenever you're driving, be listening. Whenever you're walking, be listening to something educational. I always listen to audio programs, hundreds, thousands of hours. I had one idea 7 years ago. I was driving along, and it was such a great idea that I applied it immediately, and I earned more than $700,000 the following year from that idea, and another $1 million the year after that. And I didn't do anything different from what I had been doing except for one thing. And that one thing changed my life, and it changed the lives of many, many other people. People whose businesses were on the verge of bankruptcy, once they went through this program that I developed with this idea, their businesses transformed. They went from almost bankrupt to successful and prosperous again. One idea, one written down. And the main thing is that as soon as I heard it, I pulled my car off the road, wrote it down. And I was on my way to a meeting. The first thing I did when I got to the meeting is I told everybody about this one idea. And other people came back and said, that's an incredible idea. And I told you the idea earlier, is 90% of your success in business is determined by the quality of the product or service that you offer. 90%. The best investment you can make is to improve the quality of your product or service. But 90% of your success and your income as a person is determined by the quality of your personal work. Imagine that. The quality of your work determines 90% of all your hopes and dreams in life. And you are 100% in control of the quality of your work. So, we say here, finally, attend every seminar that you can, like this. Many years ago, I found a statistic, and the statistic was that only the top 10% of adults here in South Korean society, only the top 10% of adults come to these seminars. Everyone else always has a reason or an excuse not to come. But the top 10% of people come, which means that you are the top 10% of adults in our society. Yes. And by continually coming to seminars like this, you will learn more in a few hours than some people learn in 10 or 20 years. So keep going to these seminars. Keep going. One good idea can change your life. One good idea from a seminar like this has made people rich. As long as you write it down. Number 5 habit is the habit of of maintaining excellent health. Your health is the most important thing in the world. Now, I tell you this, you notice me coming up here with 1 month ago, I was fine, and then I hurt my ankle, twisted it in some way, and within 3 or 4 days, I couldn't walk. And I've now been to several doctors and hospitals and had x-rays, and we found out what was wrong. I have what is called degenerative arthritis, which goes back to when I was 23, and I twisted my ankle. And today, it's in such serious condition, I will have to have surgery, which I will have next month, and then I will eventually be back to normal. But imagine that, and you don't even think about your health, your ankle, until you have a problem like this, and then you think of nothing else. That's all you think about is this ankle. But this is not normal for me. I want you to know. And the rest of my body is perfect, just this part right here. But that's enough to have a terrible life. Huh. And if anybody here has any good painkillers, you can give them to me. Okay, number 5, maintain excellent health. First of all, diet. Eat healthy foods. Just discipline yourself to eat really good foods. And as Warren Buffett says, just say no. Just say no to bad foods until you get into the habit of only eating good foods. The second part is get 200 minutes of exercise each week. 200 minutes of exercise is approximately 30 minutes each day of walking. So you do not have to train for the Olympics to have great physical health. You just have to go for a walk. So you just walk a little bit further home or to work or shopping. 230 minutes a day, 7 days a week will make you one of the fittest people in our society. And number 3 is get 7 to 8 hours sleep each night. In fact, a recent study on this concluded that wealthy people sleep 8.5 hours per night. Poor people sleep 6 or 7 hours, or 10 or 12. But rich people sleep 8.5 hours. And that enables them to completely recharge their mental batteries so that all day long they think with tremendous clarity. And they get much better results, and they make far fewer mistakes. I have worked with hundreds, thousands of people who think that they can be successful by getting 5 or 6 hours sleep a night. But what happens is they just get more and more tired, more and more tired. And during the day, they don't think clearly. They make mistakes. Here is an interesting test. How many people in this room, when you woke up this morning, the first thing you thought about was going back to bed? It's very common. It's very common. You're tired, you get up in the morning, and you start thinking, when can I go back to bed? You should wake up in the morning feeling so fresh that you cannot sleep. You do not need any more sleep. Number 6, the habit of hard work. This again is a habit of rich people. Rich people work 6 days a week or more. Poor people go to work 5 days a week, but they waste most of their time. So therefore, we say here, start an hour earlier in your work and work 1 hour longer in your work. And when you go to work, we say work all the time that you work. Do not waste time at work. If people say, have you got time to talk? You say, yes, but not now. Let's talk after work. Let's talk before work. Let's talk on the weekends. But for now, go to work and work 100%. It's interesting, but I am one of the top authorities, maybe the top authority on time management in the world. And I discovered something a couple of years ago that I had noticed for many years, but I had not paid attention to it. It's this, is all success comes from completed work. It comes from starting and finishing an important task. All success. You do not get success by starting and working at a job and leaving it partially done. All your success comes from completing important tasks. That's why we say over and over, write it down, set priorities, start work, work 100% of the time until it's complete. All that matters is our old friend, results, is getting specific results. And the results are everything. And that means that you complete an important task on time. And finally, number 7, the habit of continuous action. You'll find that successful people are intensely action-oriented. They think about taking action all the time. So we say move fast when you have an opportunity. If you have an idea, move quickly. If you hear something, read something, move quickly. It's very often that idea will come like a bolt of lightning, and that idea will change your life, but you must move quickly. It is amazing how many people get a great idea, but then they don't do anything about it. And then they forget about it until later, a month or a year, or a couple of years later, when somebody else comes up with that idea and becomes wealthy. So make more sales calls when you're in sales, but especially engage in more activities. People say to me, and in my sales seminars, how could I double my income? I say, double your sales activity. And they say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, how many new customers do you talk to each day? 80% or more of salespeople do not know. They do not know how many new customers they talk to. And I say, well, the average here in Seoul is 2. Worldwide, in the major cities, the average number of new sales calls is 2 per day. So therefore, if you double from 2 to 4, you'll double your income. They say it can't be that simple. Yes, it is simple, but it's not easy. So just double the number of customers that you talk to. Now, when I told you the story about the man who built his company 106 times, he doubled his activities, doubled the number of potential customers they phoned, doubled the number of salespeople who visited customers, doubled the number of deliveries that they made. In order to double their sales and their income, they just realized they had to double every activity that went into sales and profitability. And it sounds so simple. Yes, it is. But it requires hard work and discipline. And finally, develop a sense of urgency. You'll find that successful people move quickly. If they get an idea, if they have a problem or an opportunity, they move quickly. They don't wait. They don't sit around. And they don't talk in the office. They don't socialize. Is they work all day long. And they never hesitate. So develop the habit or the reputation of starting and finishing your most important tasks quickly. When you get an idea, move fast and until it becomes a habit to move fast. And when you start to develop the habit of moving quickly, you're going to become one of the most successful and highest paid people in your field. And people are going to say, you sure are lucky. You sure are lucky. And you say there's nothing to it. It's just simply a matter of law. The law of cause and effect says if you do more of these things over and over, you get more and better results. And it happens for everyone, everywhere, all over the world. And soon you become some of the top leaders in your field because you're getting more and better results than anyone else. And I hope you do. Thank you very much for our time together.